This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Good evening, and thank you for joining the Glazov Gang. I'm Michael Lauber, sitting in tonight for Dr. Jamie Glazov. And I want to once again remind our audience that this is a fan-generated show. We rely on contributions from viewers like you in order to bring you the news, the stories, and the interviews that the mainstream media doesn't want you to see. So please go to jamieglazov.com, make a contribution, and that will allow us to keep going. Are you out of shape, tired of getting chased around by villagers with pitchforks and torches because they think you're some troll from under a bridge? Well, if you want to get in shape and get back to the real you, then call James Richardson at 541-331-0252, or you can email him at jamesrichardson@yahoo.com. He does in-person training if you're in the greater Los Angeles metro area, or he will do consultations online. So once again, call James Richardson at 541-331-0252, or email him at jamesrichardson@yahoo.com. Without further ado, let's get to our guest this evening, Erin Lee. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, Mike. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us here on the Glazov Gang, and thank you to Jamie for allowing me to sit in here and host for him one last time before he gets back to everyone. Erin, you've been a courageous warrior out there, and kind of before we get in, we've got a variety of topics to touch on tonight, but I kind of wanted you to give our audience here your backstory and what brought you to the forefront and brought you to your war with the schools in Colorado.
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about this before. I was a left-leaning, pretty non-confrontational, lazy mom, not a strong believer, trusting that my children were safe in the public schools. And May of 2021, my 12-year-old daughter was invited to stay after school for an art club. But when she got there, it was actually Gender and Sexuality Awareness Club, or GSA. And the teacher had brought in outside predator organization called Splash and Skittles that talked to the kids about totally inappropriate things. They told the kids, if you're not fully comfortable in your body or your biological sex, that means you're trans. They said, if you don't know who you're sexually attracted to, that means you're queer. They talked about things like polyamory, puberty blockers, keeping secrets from parents. The kids were connected with this organization online on WhatsApp and Discord. And, when our daughter left the room, her teacher even said, remember, you don't have to tell your parents about this meeting. So we're lucky that our daughter came home and told us what had happened. But unfortunately, in a 90-minute meeting preceded by years of indoctrination, she truly believed she had been born in the wrong body. And it took about 10 months to get my daughter out of this cult mentality. I mean, she spiraled into depression. There was a bout of suicidal ideation because she was sent on this impossible pursuit to be the opposite sex and to keep it secret from her parents. They really implanted this idea that your parents aren't safe. If they don't affirm your trans identity, they don't love you, they don't accept you. The therapist made it worse. The pediatrician made it worse because we live in Colorado where laws require therapists and doctors to affirm gender confused children. And so it was like every avenue we turned to only made her worse. And so I'm so public now because we're one of the lucky families that got her out of the cult. She's a desister, meaning she's no longer identifying as trans and did not mutilate her body. But what I've learned is that this is a very, very common, pervasive issue that's happening all over the country. And my family's story is not an isolated one. It's not even rare in this country.
Well, yeah, and that's what really makes us so sick and disgusting is how insidious this is. The fact that they try to hide it, to mask it as something else in order to trick both parents and I assume some students. Like your daughter genuinely thought this was an art club when she went to attend it, correct?
Right. Yep. And she was approached at the end of the day during study hall. That was what the teacher for study hall was, this art teacher. And she was sitting alone on the bleachers, and the teacher approached her totally unsolicited. and said, "Hey, you want to come make some friends? I have an art club in my classroom after school on Tuesdays. We'd love to have you." I mean, she truly thought she was walking into an art club where she could make
Yeah.
some friends.
Well, and had that been what it actually was, this would have been, a kind gesture from the teacher for a new student, because she was relatively new to this school when this happened, correct? You guys had moved there recently from Florida.
Right.
She was kind of having a little difficulty making friends and fitting in. So, again, if this had been an honest gesture and it really was an after school art club, yeah, I would say the teacher did the right thing. But because they're masking what it really is, hiding that from her, and then telling the students to hide it from their parents, I mean, that's just wrong, sick, disgusting on multiple levels. But had it really been what it was portrayed as, not a bad thing. I mean, that's what she should be doing, trying to help her to fit in and be a little more comfortable there. But because that's the real agenda, was to lock kids, to deceive them, and then make them start questioning things at a time when they're young, they're questioning a lot of things about themselves, and they're going to take that direction, that leadership from a teacher, and it's turning them down a bad path. When they're telling them, well, your parents, really, that's not who you should be listening to. They don't know, they don't understand you. It's that much more predatory, because again, they're preying on that to divide the children and the parents in order to have more control over the children, to get them into their little gender cult.
Yeah, well, these were 11, 12, 13-year-old girls. So, what 11-year-old girl is fully comfortable in their body? I mean, grown women aren't fully comfortable in their body.
Sure.
What a sick way to prey on the most vulnerable children. And they go after the quirky kids. They called it art club. And it's
Yeah.
not atypical for it to be the anime kids, the art kids, the ones who are quirky and don't fit in. About 50% of the kids who fall into this trans identity are autistic. Some have even estimated even higher, and that's because they're socially awkward and they're
Yeah.
seeking connection with other kids who are like them. And so, truly, my daughter was preyed upon. And, she even today has said that she carries shame of being duped by these teachers because she really had trusted them, and really her trust has been broken in people who she's supposed to be able to rely on, like teachers and doctors. It's sick the way that they're preying on these girls, and they know exactly what they're doing. It is not by coincidence that they're going after pubescent girls at the start of puberty who are quirky and weird and not fitting in with what the mainstream kids are doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's too bad that she feels shame, because she shouldn't. She's a victim in all this.
Yeah.
But also I understand. You do always question yourself when something like this happens. But I'm glad that she's on a better path now. But just you getting involved in this, questioning it, and going to the teachers, they basically tried to blacklist you and turn you into the villain afterwards. Correct?
I can't even explain. And again, at the time, we were pretty lefty leaning and we were naive. And we thought, okay, we're going to call the principal. This must have been a mistake. They must have meant to call us, right? They must have
Yeah.
meant to tell us that this was happening. And so when we
Or
called,
or maybe it was one bad actor.
right, one bad person gets in, the teacher broke the rules, whatever. But he was blatant. I mean, he was blatantly said this was a confidential club because we as a school have to provide a safe space for the kids. So right off the bat, he confirmed it was intentionally confidential. So we kept going through the channels. We went to the superintendent, we went to the school board, we went to the police. And at every step along the way, it was like, oh, this was intentional. There was a concerted effort to conceal this from us, and we weren't supposed to find out about it. And we even, once I learned the power of public record request, which being a naive citizen, I didn't know I had that power. I sought after the emails between all of the parties in this school, and they referred to parents who find out as barriers. They said we did not have a right to know that this club was happening. They even discussed sending child protective services to our home for a well child check, to check on the welfare of our kids because we weren't going along with it. And they did. They sent a mandated reporter to our home. We just didn't understand that was what was happening at the time. So we came that close to losing our child.
Yeah, they've definitely got a playbook that they turn to, and that's another way to put pressure on you, make you as a parent feel like you're the one that's out of line or not doing the right thing. Maybe you're interfering with what your child really wants, when in reality it's them trying to take advantage of someone, and to like as you said, to prey upon them, to prey upon someone that is an awkward teen, to take advantage of them, to get them into their little cult, where they're going to do self-harm, mutilate themselves, get on drugs that are going to do permanent harm, cause infertility. Um, But the child, they don't know that. They don't understand all the consequences. And when you're only being fed part of the story, and they make you feel good, all of a sudden you're part of the club. All of a sudden you're accepted. Your whole life's changed, and that's what traps them into this. They're taking advantage of that awkwardness and that they feel that they're not accepted. Now all of a sudden somebody's reaching out to them. It's a manipulation. It's sick and disgusting. And then the way they turn it on the parents, make you guys into the villain too. That's part of why this is so insidious and why we've got to do something to put a stop to it.
Well, I call that love bombing, or in this case, it was, glitter bombing with rainbows and glitters and sunshine. And they vilify the parents. And that's what cults do.
Yeah.
I in no uncertain terms will, I will always describe them as a cult. It is a gender cult. They try to separate the children from the family. And when we found out about it, they bullied us with the suicide myth. Right off the bat, would you rather have a living son or a dead daughter? You must go along with this. Everyone did. The school, the therapist, the pediatrician. Do you want your daughter to live? Then you had better go along with this unless you want a dead daughter. So we were bullied right off the bat. And for most parents, life does not prepare you for that moment when your child comes home and suddenly proclaims that they're transgender with no signs or indicators leading up to that. Sure, she was isolated. It was COVID. It was 2021. So it was the height of COVID. I live in Colorado where it was like draconian shutdowns. And and we just moved here. She was totally isolated. And they absolutely took advantage of that.
Well, that's what they do. They prey upon the weak and then use that as a division. Now, I know that you also put together a film about your whole experience there called Art Club Movie, and that's still available for free both at artclubmovie.com and at on YouTube. Can we go ahead and play the preview for that real quick?
I kind of realize now that I had been indoctrinated myself into thinking that this could be real. I was a product of the society we live in now where everyone thinks that this is completely normal, that people can be any gender they want. And in that very moment, I thought potentially she could be transgender.
You can choose to be a boy, a girl, neither, or both.
The pronoun question is a direct attack on the nature of creation and the nature of God.
We set them up and say, if you don't go down this path, you're going to commit suicide.
We're going to lose our country. We're going to lose our freedoms. We're going to lose our families. We're going to lose everything.
My number one advice to parents is get your kids out of public schools. They're not safe.
I think she came into my office with a flag she was given during this class and looked at me with a smile and said, "Dad, I'm transgender." And then basically scurried off.
I went through a range of emotions. I started with wondering if it was real and then realizing this isn't real. I know my daughter. It took me a minute. It was just so much shock.
Yeah.
Nothing could have ever prepared us for that moment. It was just a regular Tuesday, and she came home and she was a whole different person.
When I first heard Erin's story, I knew that this should be shared with the nation. And that is why we have created this documentary. This is simply their authentic, first-hand experience.
Once again, that's available at artclubmovie.com, or you can watch it for free on YouTube. And I would strongly encourage you guys to watch that documentary, learn more, get all the details with what happened to Erin's daughter and to the community there in Colorado, because the government there, the legislature, they're clearly at war with the parents in Colorado, correct?
I have no way to describe it other than Colorado has become upside down clown world, make believe, pretend land. I mean, it's like the Twilight Zone. It's become Orwellian society here, where I thought, again, naively, that 4 years ago when I started sounding the alarm that people were going to wake up and people were going to get behind me and we were going to start to shift culture here in Colorado and Trump would win and things would change. And no, we've gone even farther to the left. even farther into insanity. And they have now passed through the House the most insane radical bill that has ever been passed in any state in the history of America. I mean, it's global news at this point because it
Yeah.
is such an insane bill.
Yeah. And it's that the fact that, again, they're basically doing what they can to pit parents and children against each other, and now with this misgendering provision. So tell me if I'm missing anything here. So if your child now decides, they come home from school one day and they decide they're the opposite gender, or they identify as a toaster, whatever. Yeah, if you don't refer to them by their preferred pronouns, that's now like akin to child abuse. They can take your children from you, penalize the parents, possibly even put you in jail, all for not playing pretend with your kids.
Yeah, and you heard what happened to me. Like, this is deeply personal. If this bill had been in place 4 years ago when CPS showed up at my home, I would have lost my daughter. Like, this would have
Yeah.
gone very, very differently. So it's Colorado House Bill 1312, and it's passed the House, and it passed the House in an insane radical way, where they filed it on a Friday night. It was presented on a Monday afternoon. It was committee on Tuesday. It was voted through by Rule 14, which limits debate to 2 hours. Then they called in our legislators on a Sunday morning for third read and invoked Rule 16, which makes it no debate possible. So they brought them in on a Sunday morning, did not allow them to speak on behalf of their constituents, and passed it through the House. And they really thought that they were going to get away with it. I cannot stress enough that the opposition that has turned up against this bill is the reason that it has not been sent to the governor's desk yet. So it's still sitting at the Senate. It's yet to be introduced in the Senate, and our session has another 3 weeks to go. So they could introduce it and try to push it through, ram it through the same way they did in the House any day now between now and May 7th. But this bill's wild, Mike. What it does is, I mean, on its face, it's wildly unconstitutional. It's forced speech. It affects all
Yes.
Coloradans. It's not just a parent issue. Within this bill that they're calling the Transgender Bill of Rights, the Kelly Loving Act, which is one of the Club Q victims, they're absolutely using this person's tragic death as a means
Yeah.
to force rights away from Coloradans. But it says that dead naming or misgendering, calling someone by their actual name or calling them by their actual biological sex, is defined as discrimination for any place of public accommodation. And in Colorado, a place of an accommodation is anywhere that the public can go. So it's churches, it's private schools, it's businesses. Jack the Cake Baker had better get ready for round 3 because it's coming. They're going to come after him again for this. It says that the media cannot misgender people. So even left-leaning media should be outraged because their ability to report the truth is being limited. It forces charter schools, which have autonomy, to eliminate gender dress code. So if a boy wants to wear a skirt, you have to allow that. If a girl wants to dress like a boy, you have to allow that. You have to call them what they want to be called. And these are, again, autonomous charter schools. And then there's the parent piece. So it says that in any custody situation, that the state, the courts, can determine that misgendering or dead naming is coercive control or abuse. And so, of course, we think like the custody situations of all the dads. And I know a dozen dads from other states whose exes have moved to Colorado because we are a trans sanctuary state with all of these radical laws, and their children are being medically transitioned against their will. And it says that no other state order, no custody orders, no state laws, nothing can penetrate the walls of Colorado. So if the women can get here with the kids, they can mutilate them, and the dads have no say. But it also opens the door to custody situations like mine for the parents who have CPS weaponized against us, who are that unfortunate, and it's happening all the time. Here in Colorado, the state can use that against us and remove custody from both loving parents for telling the truth to their child, for not being willing to transition them.
Well, and it's not going to be long before these little art clubs and other things are going to be weaponized the children against the parents. They're going to be telling them, if your parents don't respect your new gender identity, that they can call CPS, and that CPS will come get them and protect them. Now, to go back to something you said earlier, too. So if this has already passed the House in Colorado and then it gets through the Senate, I mean, Jared Polis is already showing he doesn't have a spine. That limp-wristed pickle kisser. What was the other bill he just let go through that was a little controversial? So he decided not to sign it, but instead let it become law automatically by sitting on his desk for whatever it is in Colorado, 5 days, 10 days, 7 days. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's 10. But he did sign Senate Bill 3, which is the most egregious gun grabbing bill that's ever been passed in any state. And he signed it. And here's why. I don't know if you know this, Mike, but Michael Bennet, who's the current senator for Colorado, announced his run for governor. So Michael Bennet will be the next governor of Colorado if we, the people, don't stop it. And then he will appoint current governor Jared Polis to his Senate seat in the U.S. Senate. So they're just playing the shell game. They're just swapping around who is where, which radical is sitting in which seat. So his immediate aspirations to run for president are no longer. So he's going to sign these. He signed the gun bill when this radical, parental rights, obliteration goes to his desk. Yeah, he's going to sign it, and it will get to his desk.
Well, I'm going to go find some tequila and take a drink, but we've got to take a quick break, hear from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back to wrap this up.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Guys, thank you for staying with us. And I want to strongly encourage you to go to MyPillow and MyStore.com right now. Use code GG21. You'll get the deepest discounts, and you'll be able to support Mike Lindell, who is a great patriot in his fight for free and fair elections. And right now, he is back in the media's crosshairs. He's threatened to run against Tampon Tim up in Minnesota, and I hope he does. But that's put a bullseye on his back and the backs of his employees at MyPillow. They're a great American company, and all the products on mystore.com also come from small businesses around the country. So again, it's an opportunity to support a great patriot, to support American businesses, and to get the deepest discounts with code GG21. So again, go to MyPillow or mystore.com and support Patriot Mike Lindell and all his employees there at MyPillow. Guys, we are back at it with Erin, and this stuff in Colorado, I mean, it just gets worse and worse because, believe it or not, we just had 2 different, on my program, The Insurrection, we've had 2 different gun store owners on from Colorado over the last week to discuss the other bill, stripping away gun rights. But it seems to be that the government of Colorado is at war with its citizenry. They want to strip you of as many rights as they can. They want to put a wedge between families, and they don't care what the people of Colorado think. Like, they have an agenda, and this is what's going to happen. That's why they tried to sneak this through and rush it through like they did.
Yeah. Commirado, as I like to call it. And it's like they're overwhelming us with bills. Like the gun grab was distracting us from the parental rights grab. And I can't stress enough, there have been bills passed since 2019 that led us here. I'm glad the world is waking up. Seems like everyone around the country knows about 1312, and I'm grateful for that. But what most people don't understand is that since Jared Polis took office, and he's run by the Teachers Union, the Colorado Education Association, they have passed the series of these most egregious bills. They lowered the age of healthcare consent to 12. They made it illegal for licensed therapists to do anything but affirm gender-confused youth. They forced gender ideology into 5th grade curriculum. They then forced LGBTQ into 1st grade social studies standards. And the state even put out resources for teachers to meet that new standard that had lessons about sex work, Harvey Milk, and the governor's sexuality in 1st grade lessons. That's 6-year-olds. It gets worse. They mandated mental health surveys for all 6th through 12th graders. And if the child's deemed high risk, which they all are, then they're sent to the state's mental health program called I Matter that is all LGBTQ affirming and sex work positive therapists. They made us a trans sanctuary state back in 2023. They hid it in an abortion bill. So if you can get here with your kids, you can medicalize them, and the doctors there's no recourse. They cannot be held accountable. And they just doubled down on that with Senate Bill 129 this year, which even took like abortion drugs off of the register. You can't even track it, so they can be prescribing abortion drugs secretly. There's these detransitioners have no way to file lawsuits, no federal injunction, no state medical board can even do an investigation on these doctors performing late term abortions. We're up to you can actually abort your baby after they're born here in Colorado for any reason you want. We're like the worst abortion state.
So how long after they're born? Because is this like the California bill where basically you can have a baby now? Well, I know it didn't get through in California, but they gave you, was that 30 days after the child was born to, bring them back, return them, and have them murdered?
I don't know how bad it is, but it's a constitutional measure. So what they did is they used the ballot initiative process to confuse Coloradans. I mean, the language was incredibly confusing. And so the people voted it into our Constitution that now abortion up until birth is completely legal. And at the same time that they were ramming through this crazy 1312 bill on a Sunday morning, they also rammed through taxpayer-funded abortions. So not only can you abort up until birth, but the taxpayers are now going to pay for it. And there's a sister bill to 1312. So again, I'm glad it's getting all the attention, but there's also a bill 1309 that has been voted through at the same time. They will be sent to the governor at the same time. This is forcing taxpayers to pay for these elective surgery, transgender affirming surgery. So if a man thinks he needs breast implants and lip fillers and an eyelid lift and a facelift to feel more like a woman, we, the taxpayers, have to pay for that. But if a woman going through breast cancer needs breast reconstruction, that is not guaranteed coverage. So they're doing transgender affirming surgery, but not sex affirming surgery. These detransitioners have absolutely no coverage, but they're not included in this bill. So we're paying for the abortions. We're paying for the transgender procedures. We're completely off the rails here in Colorado.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys want to incentivize evil and finance that. But if somebody wants to detransition or do something else, or something where, again, I don't like the government paying for people's medical procedures, period. But I can at least understand more, a woman that's had breast cancer and has a valid reason to have, want breast implants to get restored to their normal self again. Of course, no paying for that. We wouldn't even consider it. That's evil. That's wrong. Well, it gets even more insidious too. I've heard that right now your government's trying to calculate a way to end their what's it called? They're basically their taxpayer bill of rights, essentially, where they have to. Yeah, what's it called again?
Tabor. Taxpayer bill of rights. Yeah.
Now they're trying to say that the constitutional amendment that put that in place is unconstitutional because they know they're about to take a hit on funding, that the Trump administration is going to defund the schools, a number of other things because of this gender ideology, another insanity that your government's pushing. So now they want to get rid of the check that the people have on the government to ensure that they're doing their job and spending the people's money wisely. They've also, used weasel methods to sneak through other legislation and basically declare that it's not changing taxes or how it affects the taxpayers by having a private organization somehow involved. So basically, they're also trying to hide all this stuff from the people of Colorado, and they're about to take a big step to make sure that they can just do whatever they want to take the one check, the one protection you guys still have away.
Absolutely. Well, and they've already said they're not going to comply with ICE. They're not going to comply with the Department of Education's mandates on DEI. They've outwardly said that. And they also, 2 days ago, I forget the bill number off the top of my head, but they pushed through a bill that is going to take $4 million. And we're in like billions of dollars of debt here in Colorado.
Yeah.
We have a major deficit. And the governor has even said he would not sign bills with a big fiscal note. But they still just passed a bill through the House to take $4 million of our taxpayer funds to hire lawyers to defend the state of Colorado when they defy these executive orders. So they're going to defy it against the wishes of the people, the will of the people, and then they're going to force us, the taxpayers, to pay for it.
I mean, I'm honestly not surprised with everything else I've heard, but I mean, it's sick. It's disgusting. The fact that like the government of Colorado is in open rebellion against the people. There appear to be no real lines of recourse against you. And then to top it all off, your elections in Colorado are just so corrupt and backwards that even if you rally the support of the people, can you even get a victory there?
Well, they have successfully deterred a lot of people from even voting. I mean, I hear a lot of people on the right who are like, why are you even bothering? Why do you show up to testify? It doesn't matter. Why do you get involved in elections? It doesn't matter. They're corrupt. And I agree, but it's kind of like Donald Trump said, we have to make it too big to rig. That doesn't mean that we give up completely, but
Yes.
and I think that's obviously a tactic, is to discourage people from even showing up to vote or even running for office, because we don't feel as though, we know as though our elections are not safe and secure. We have the most corrupt Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, in the entire United States, and she just announced her run for Attorney General. So again, they're playing the shell game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and after her failure before, getting exposed for leaving the codes to your the
BIOS
logins for
passwords.
all your electric or electronic voting machines out in public for whatever it was, 6 or 9 months, and then of course she investigates herself and determines that she did nothing wrong, as always. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It is part of the game. They make it so difficult to have. It's not even a conservative position, a common sense position within the borders of Colorado, that those that think differently, they leave. I mean, even people I know that have been like lifetime residents there, that have family there and everything else. There's a number of them that are considering fleeing right now as things continue to get worse and worse in Colorado, especially with these last couple bills, both to essentially restrict firearm owners, make it extremely difficult to own a firearm, and then possibly they want to add the insurance thing on top of it, which don't even get me started on that. But and then also going after parents, to the severing your rights to your children, severing parental rights, and putting laws in place where they can now indoctrinate your children, weaponize them against you, and then separate families. Because at the end of the day, that's really what they're doing, and I think that's what they want. They want broken families, broken homes, and people growing up in situations where they are more dependent on the government and therefore more likely to support whatever the government does to them in the future. That they're just solidifying their power and turning their citizens into slaves.
Well, it's scary because I already know that it's happening. Since coming forward, I have parents naturally come to me when they find themselves in these situations, and I help 3 to 5 parents a week at minimum who've had their
Wow.
children secretly transitioned, or dads who have already lost custody of their kids. There's a dad who went viral last week named Dustin Gonzalez in Jeffco schools, which again makes national news. Are the worst. Lived at TikTok has said they're the worst school district in the entire country. His daughter was secretly transitioned by a school counselor, and it was a divorce situation. So they involved mom. Mom started affirming it. By the time dad found out, and he's a wonderful dad, they had full split custody. They had 50-50. By the time he found out, it was used against him because he questioned it. He was like, wait a minute, no, you're not non-binary. You're 11, first of all. And no, I'm not going to go along with it. He had a court hearing last Friday, and the judge used that against him. They said that his inability to affirm his daughter's true identity proves he does not deserve custody. And they gave full custody to mom. And again, he's a great, loving, wonderful dad who just is doing the right thing for his kid. So this law is just going to ensure that every dad finds themselves in that situation, but it's
Yeah.
already happening, and it's a classroom to trafficking pipeline.
Yeah, you got that exactly right. And again, I just want to underscore this, that if you have a situation, messy divorce, and it sounds like they were getting along, but somebody planted this seed in his ex-wife's head, in her head. Somebody whispered in her ear and said, hey, you know what? You want to get full custody of your kids? Maybe you'll get, I wonder if they told her maybe she'd get more child support. This is what she can say. She'll get total control. This will make your ex-husband's life more difficult, and he won't be able to interfere in your kids' lives anymore. You can transition your son to your daughter, or vice versa, whatever it was. But that's going to be another tactic that they undertake. And again, it's to divide families, make things more difficult for people. And as we've seen with other states, the more child support flowing through your system, the more federal dollars they receive too. So there's also this perverse incentive to divide as many families and as many homes as possible. I mean, this whole thing's just like you said, it's upside down and backwards. It's just bizarro land. But what is the recourse? Like, what should people in Colorado be doing? And what can people from outside states do to help? Because I think part of the reason why the microscope is on Colorado right now is we're watching these things happen. We already know how these things work. California, Colorado, Chicago, places like that are the test bed. And then we see this policy pop up in other places where you wouldn't expect, where it gets snuck through in the middle of the night, and then they pretend they had no idea what was going on. Somebody pulled a fast one on them. They tricked us into voting for that.
Colorado's really the test case, and I like to say, so goes Colorado, so goes the nation. I mean, what happens here doesn't stay here, and so everyone in the whole country should be concerned. And also, there's interstate ramifications of this bill. As I said, if a woman, it's usually women, 99% of the time it's women, if they can
Yeah.
get here with the child that they want to transition, then they're protected. They're insulated by these laws. No other state law or court order or custody hearing or custody decision matters here. So there are totally interstate ramifications. This affects everyone in the country. If it goes through here, it will go to Michigan, Wisconsin. It will go to the other states next. And so we all have a stake in what happens in Colorado. But I encourage people, there's a petition at coloradoparents.org. They're already up to over 22,000 signatures in just a few days. And the intent is to print those signatures out and deliver them to the governor's desk to put pressure on him. Heritage Action has a great form where you can email all the senators in one fell swoop in about 10 seconds. And when you sign the Colorado Parents petition, it'll redirect you to that Heritage Action form. So those are things that anyone anywhere in the country can do. But also I encourage people to show up and testify, and you do not have to live in Colorado. You can Zoom in to testify when this goes to Senate committee. We'll probably only have about 24 hours notice, but I encourage people, I see my handles up there, to follow me at Erin for Parents. And I will post as soon as I know that this bill has been introduced in the Senate. I've had the misfortune of listening to the Senate floor every day just to try to catch it when it goes through. It's the worst. I hate it. I almost hope they just present it soon so I could be done with this. But I will notify people as soon as you can sign up to testify and give instruction on how to do that. And just keep talking about it. I mean, they've retracted. They're holding this bill because they want the heat to die down. And we can't let the heat die down. We've got to keep that going. I'm excited that the Wall Street Journal just posted an op-ed that I wrote with Erin Friday from California,
Yes.
a mom who's got my same story, who's total badass. And we're hoping that it'll wake up some people on the left. This affects all parents. This is not just a right issue. I had just voted for Joe Biden when my daughter was indoctrinated in school. I was completely unsuspecting. You are not immune from this if you're a conservative person. I mean, this just, or if you're a progressive, this affects all of us. And so I'm just hopeful that people will continue to apply the pressure, because that is working here. It's keeping them on their toes, and it's keeping them from presenting this bill and rushing it through as they were in the House. So talk about it.
Yeah, well, you've more than suffered enough for voting for Joe Biden. You've definitely made up for it with all the hard work you've done to warn parents. But yeah, you're exactly right. Like normie parents, people that don't pay attention to the news, don't watch what's going on. I've got some neighbors like that I run into. I'm out walking my dog. When I tell them about stuff like this, they're just straight up dumbfounded, because the dinosaur media ignores these kind of stories. They don't cover them. They don't talk about it, even though it is major news. It is huge cultural shifts that they were smart, they would be covering, and then their ratings wouldn't be in the gutter. But you're exactly right. This is also an issue that does go across party lines. I mean, I know a number of people who, like yourself, had been default Democrats. That this transgenderist insanity, especially with our kids, that has been what really lit the fuse and woke them up. That the other stuff, from supporting Tesla terrorism to being the pro-Hamas party and everything else, like that got under their skin. But with stuff like this, that's what really woke them up. Because at the end of the day, most people that have kids don't want to do them harm. Most people want to be good parents. They want their kids to be successful. That's something that's universal across cultural lines, race, ethnicity, religion, everything else. Generally, parents want to protect their kids and have them leave them a better world than they have and more opportunity. But this kind of stuff is just antithetical to human nature. It sends the country and the world in completely the wrong direction. It's demonic, and that's something all of us can agree on. And yeah, I agree that Colorado has unfortunately become the test bed for a lot of this leftist policy. I think California used to always be where it went, but they're already seen as a failure now. So they've got to go to other states now to implement their next piece of disastrous policy. Erin, what is the best place for our audience to find you?
Yeah, I go by Erin for Parental Rights on all social media platforms. And I'm also the executive director of Protect Kids Colorado. We're at protectkidscolorado.org. So here's the good news. Like, it's not all doom and gloom. In Colorado, we're lucky to have the Citizens Ballot Initiative process here. And so we've just actually filed, I have my first appointment at the Capitol on Monday for these initiatives. We're running 3. One would make it class 1 felony, life in prison, no chance of parole if you buy or sell a child for sex. The second one keeps boys out of girls' single-sex sports. Jennifer Say is cheering that issue. And then the third would ban irreversible sex change procedures on minors. And so the people of Colorado don't agree with this. Our radical legislators are so out of touch, they don't represent the majority. And they have boiled the frog with this issue. Like, the people are waking up, and I think we're going to win some seats over this. So this is a great way for people to get involved. Everyone can carry a petition to help us get on the ballot, and we will get on the ballot. And these issues will get voted through by the will of the people, and you'll see the dominoes fall. They don't want to give an inch, but when our ballot initiatives are successful and the people's voice is heard, and they, unequivocally reject gender ideology in the direction this state is going, it's going to have a tremendous effect here in Colorado. So I encourage people to get involved at protectkidscolorado.org.
Yeah, again, protectkidscolorado.org. And if you can let me know when that 24-hour window is that they have to register or whatever so they can remote in to testify, I'll reach out to Jeff Younger and a number of other people that are powerful speakers that will really light a fire there. And hopefully we can get this legislation defeated, because otherwise, like, this is going to harm families all over Colorado. That this is only going to create more broken homes, more children that'll unfortunately grow up to be dysfunctional adults, and it is only going to cause more harm and more evil. We've got to put an end to this. We've got to put an end to this gender ideology, this LGBTQ cult that's infected so many of our schools, and we've got to do something to get our whole country back on a better track. I mean, mental illness is mental illness. And I think part of why you're seeing all these breakdowns right now is because of this, because for years we've not just excused it, we've forced people to go along with it, to placate crazy people. I mean, somebody told you they had an imaginary friend. You as an adult, you wouldn't go talk to their imaginary friend or whatever. Maybe a 4-year-old, you might address their imaginary friend. But if we ran into somebody else mentally ill on the street, we're not going to pretend that their mental illness is okay. We're going to either get them help or get them to somebody that can help them. But with this, if you don't placate it, if you don't go along and acknowledge their imaginary friend, you could realistically end up in jail now.
Yeah, affirming reality will become illegal in Colorado.
Yeah.
Speaking the truth will become illegal. It's kind of unthinkable that we've gone this far.
Well, again, I want to thank you for joining us tonight on the Glazov Gang. I hope that we can get this legislation defeated in Colorado, that we can scare Polis into vetoing this bill. I don't know if that's a possibility. It sounds like he's already made his pact with the devil. To our audience, again, thank you for joining us on the Glazov Gang tonight. Again, I want to remind you to go to jamieglazoff.com, make a contribution. This is a fan-generated show, and we rely on your support to bring you stories like this that you're not going to see anywhere else. So once again, thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll be back next week. Dr. Jamie Glazov will be back next week with even more.
This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazoff.com. Also,